Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Obvio Q&A. Look at that nice wave, synchronized waving from Ed and Terry there. Very well done. That was good. Hey, Justin. Oh, pretty background. You were like, I'm going to turn all 8 screens on today. This feels like an 8-screen day. Is that what it was?
Exactly what it was.
Don't worry,
I haven't
Dad.
got,
I don't have
hang on. I haven't got my sound on for some reason. All right, I'll work it out.
Now can you hear us?
Thank you. There we go. There it is. My speakers, thank you. My speakers hadn't turned on yet. So it was going to be a day where it was just me talking. And whenever anyone else was talking, I would just talk over them because I couldn't hear you. Okay. Hello, Blue.
I like that you have a nice assistant there today.
I did have one of my assistants brought me a cup of tea.
Very fine.
Good way to start a Q&A call. Hello, Blue.
Hey, how's it going?
Pink day today.
It is, but don't worry, still wearing blue jeans.
I was worried because the pink jeans would have been a bit much.
Right? Oh, pink on pink, that's not right.
All right, well, that's all we've got time for today. Sorry, that's it's just the
thanks
fashion.
for coming. We'll
Yep.
see you next time.
We've covered it all. All right. So, as people know, I think mostly people have been here before, posting questions on the dashboard. Ask a question, and that puts it into the form moderation tool, which is built into Obvio, and that's where we'll keep track of things. And I'll keep an eye on that, and we'll work through questions from there. So, starting off, we have one from Terry. Hey, Terry, it's good to have you here. We want to add content to our dashboard that is only visible to attendees who show up. What is the best practice recommendations for setting that up? I have an idea of how it works. I want to make sure my idea lines up with yours. Well, that's good. What's your idea?
I know that there's that feature where you can create a tag if there's a particular action by someone. And so what I thought I would do is we have a button on the dashboard that, let's say, launches the main stage. And so I think I would go into that button and configure it so that the tag got applied to those individuals upon clicking it.
Right. So you really don't want the content to be available before they've been in Zoom. Is that what you're trying to gatekeep a little bit?
Yeah.
And would there be a minimum amount of time in Zoom that you were thinking about, or not?
I think it
Just
was
as long as they showed up.
literally they showed up. They opened the Zoom room.
Yeah. So, and are you using an integration at all? Have you got anything
The
else
only
going on
integration the integration that we're using is with Kit. So they come over with a bunch of tags.
there? Okay. Yeah. So a couple of different ways. Yes. With Kit, you could do it on the button to push back to Kit. That they have.
Oh, I was not thinking that it would go back to Kit. Because the access to the content would be right on the dashboard.
It's right on Obvio. Yeah.
How quickly do they have to get access to the content? Was that question answered?
No. So the idea would be that as soon as they entered live, that they would then I was thinking I would create another button to the PDF. So it would be a PDF that would then be available to them on the dashboard.
And what you're trying to accomplish, I just want to make sure I understand the outcome so we can give you the simplest possible answer, right? Because this is one of those things where there's probably 5 or 6 ways to do what you're asking. And I think we want to give you the least technical way to do it.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that you just want to make sure that they don't get access to the content before, but they can have access to the content during the event itself?
Correct. And I think it's being used as a tease to get them to show up live.
Great. And how mission critical is it that they have to be in Zoom? Would it be good enough that if they show up during the time that they're supposed to be in Zoom, it's available, but any other time it's not? Is that good enough?
Yeah, I do think that that's good enough. In my opinion, I have a greater team to discuss that with, but I kind of think yes. Like if it's, yeah,
Because I
I
feel like
do.
if they make it to the dashboard
Yeah,
at the time, like
yes.
how long is the event, Terry?
It's an hour. It's an hour.
Okay, so if they make it to the dashboard in that 60-minute window,
Yeah,
it feels like they've done, to me anyway, like if I understand the reason why you want to do this, right? Because it, like you said, it's meant as a tease. But to me, it's like, all right, as long as if they take the effort to show up on the dashboard, what are the
yeah.
chances that they're not going to take that one extra click and say, I wonder what's going on in Zoom?
Yeah, I'm gonna side on that as
Yeah.
well. I agree with that. So then,
So with that, what I would and these are things that are available inside of resources, basically, like downloads inside of resources, right? Like
oh
the
yeah,
PDF. Yeah.
yeah,
So inside of the when you go into the gear, right, to
yeah.
modify the resource, under rules, there is an option to show from and show until. And what you can do is just preset that in advance to show from the start date and time of your webinar, or show it from the start date and time of your webinar, and then show it until the end date and time of your webinar, and then enable it, and then nobody will see it until the start time is there.
Okay, now that you say that, I don't think that my boss is gonna like that, because I think the idea was that it would then be available to them. It's a 3-day event, and so there's a day 1, day 2, day 3. I think the idea would be that those individuals would have access to that then over those 3 days. And just to kind of throw a curveball in it, they there's one of these Easter eggs planned for day 1, day 2, and day 3.
Okay.
You just got to do it. You just got to do it based on Zoom attendance, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or click of the button, either one. Click of the main
I
stage
guess.
button or Zoom attendance.
Okay, and then I can have that generate a tag that is a tag inside of Obvio.
Well,
I can't wait. So sorry.
yeah. I
Zoom
actually,
attendance.
the problem with Zoom attendance is if they want it to be available as soon as the event starts, and they're like, all right, so for those of you who are here, we've made this thing available on the dashboard for you. You run the Zoom attendance job, but then you have to run it again 10 minutes later, because what if people show up late? And then you have to run it again, and then run it again, and then run it again. I think you do it based on the main
I
stage
think it would
button.
be all right to do it afterwards then, like just modify it a little bit and say, hey, you showed up as a thank you or whatever. You're
Okay.
that's what I'm thinking, like, because they aren't gonna really drop out of the live event to go look at this resource.
Okay.
They
Got it.
don't need it during the live event. So then I would tie the creation of the tag to the Zoom attendance report.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Do you want to know how to do that? It's probably the next question, right?
Well, I kind of think I can figure it out if I'm
You
being
probably
honest.
can, but why don't we just walk you through it really quick?
Oh, I love that. Okay, if you're
The
willing.
benefit of others as well. Yep.
So you go into Zoom attendance, and I'm going to pick a date and time in the future. Okay. So let's say your webinar was, let's say your webinar is taking place on April 1st. Okay.
Okay.
And it's, so I would start with start date of April 1st. And then let's say it's taking place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. So I'd go 9 a.m. and then I'd go to April 1st at 10 a.m. And then I would pick the main stage or the area. You have to pick the area in order to do this. You can't just let it be all. You have to select the area you're working with. And then you click load. Now, this is going to give you a response pretty quickly because it's a time in the future. Nobody's in there. So it's going to say nobody's there, just like this has, right? But then what you do is you go to attendee actions and you say add Obvio tag or group. And then you add the tag or group that you would like. So in my case, let's just say day 1, and then I'm going to press the enter key to turn it from text into a little bubble like this. That's key.
Yep.
And then rather than click confirm, which is how you would do it for attendance that has already taken place, you press this little clock button, which is to schedule this action. And what I would do is I would schedule the action to take place probably at 10:15, like a few minutes after the event.
Mhm.
Although you probably don't need to. And then click schedule. Now, what'll happen then if you go to scheduled actions, you're going to see a pending scheduled action. And it's going to say it's going to take place on April 1st, 2025 at 10:15 a.m. It's going to add the Obvio tag or group that we defined for anybody on the leap stage between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. And then at 10:15 a.m., it will automatically apply that day 1 tag to all people who were present in the main stage in that time frame.
Mhm.
The next step is then just to go to your dashboard and go down to the resource. Let's just say it's this first one right here that you want to make available. You click on the gear, go to rules, click add rule, tags include, and then you just type in day 1 and click save. In this case, you don't press enter, although that would probably be a nice thing to change. And then you click save. So now anybody, the only people who will see this button, and again, you leave it enabled because the only way they're going to see it, it doesn't matter when they go to the dashboard, is if they have that day 1 tag. So that is start to finish how you would do what you're trying to do.
Thank you. That made sense. I appreciate that.
Yep, no worries.
You can skip my next question.
Oh yeah, because it's related.
super- Well, no, it's really fast, but I feel guilty taking up all the time.
We probably
Yeah,
have
fine.
3 questions submitted. I would just say
Oh,
let's
really?
go for it.
Oh,
we
then
have
let's
more
do
than
it.
3. We have
Oh,
more than
okay.
3, but we will do it because I think it relates to what we were just talking about. And in that, you're saying that you've got integration with Kit. If I change the first name of an attendee in Obvio, will that first name stay as my changed version as long as I don't hit the import button again? So Blue,
Yes.
that's one thing I wanted to check, and Justin
It
was
will.
thinking along the same lines. Is it two-way integration with Kit?
No.
And so
One direct.
these, yeah, which is fine, and that's all I was thinking about with the tags as well. Is the Obvio only tags won't get overwritten by Kit.
No, they probably will. That's that they probably will. Yeah.
There we go.
But
Which
that's
actually
only gonna
well, so
sorry.
that leads back to the other problem, which is don't use a tag, use a group for your Zoom attendance issue.
There we go. Yeah, because they won't get they
Yeah.
don't get interfered with by Kit.
So you can make the group like the group name attended and the value yes, something like that, or attended day one or whatever you want it to be. But use groups, which are essentially custom fields, rather than using tags, because the reality is most of your attendees probably won't have this happen during the event. But during the event or at any time from the time that you set up the integration with Kit to the end of your event in Obvio, if you make a change to a contact record who is an attendee, that change will come all the way through. So if you add a tag, any tag, to one of those contacts who also has the Obvio Day 1 tag, Kit's tags, like the integration tags, always overwrite or basically replace everything that's in Obvio. We use Kit as the source of truth, if you will. Okay. So there's two things that you could do as an alternative, right? So one thing that you could do is for back to your Zoom attendance, you could use groups and store the information inside of Obvio. Or if I was you, I would probably, instead of applying an Obvio tag through the Zoom attendance, now that we're having this conversation and going a little bit deeper, I would probably apply
Push
the
the
external
Kit.
tag. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would apply the tag in Kit. And then once it gets applied in Kit over the course of, a few minutes or whatever, it'll wind up coming back into your event.
But I thought it was just a one-way sync and a one-directional sync for
It
that
is a
particular.
one-way sync, but what we're doing, we're not syncing anything. What we're doing is we're using the when we go actions and we go add external tag, we're not syncing anything. What we're doing is we're saying to Kit, add this tag to these contacts. Then the Obvio integration, which is the sync, gets a notification from Kit saying, hey, these contacts just had a tag applied. Obvio doesn't know that Obvio applied the tags. That is unimportant, right? Because so Obvio applies the tags in Kit, so you have Kit as your source of truth. And then the Kit integration comes back to Obvio and says, hey, by the way, Blue just got a tag applied. Please update his tags to include day 1. The interesting thing about that, Terry, is not you may, if your boss is as detailed as he is for, or she is for the item on the dashboard, they may at some point come to you and say, hey, Terry, I want to send an email to everybody who attended day 1. Can we do that? And now, because you have applied the day 1 tag in Kit rather than Obvio, you have the potential to do that.
Okay.
Right. And then also do the reverse, which is, hey, let's send an email to everybody who didn't show up for day 1 and try and get them to show up for day 2. Right. So you can customize your communication that way. So having Kit be your source of truth with the tag may be the smarter way to go overall, and also not have tags get overwritten.
Yeah, I can totally see that email about somehow encouraging them to come the next day. I could see her being very interested in that. So that's a good tip. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And
So
then what was the original question? The original question 2, Grant, that we were answering?
Go, Justin.
I think we're talking about this a little. If you want to assume if people click on the join button that they're going into Zoom, you can also just add the tag right on the button and not have to worry about the job. And if someone shows up at 16 minutes, now they don't get it. It just depends on how exactly accurate. If they have to be in Zoom versus they clicked on the button and maybe they didn't fully go into Zoom, like if that's a concern, then yes, schedule the
Okay.
job. If you're good
Gotcha.
with they clicked on the button and assume, just add, there's a field right at the bottom of when you configure the button, because you have kit and you can pick the tag. And it does the same exact thing as that scheduled job. It just does it every time they click on the button, it'll go tag.
Okay.
Which,
Gotcha.
which does also mean if you're giving them the link to the dashboard in advance, Terry, you may want to hide the main stage button until it's actually time for them to join the main stage.
Okay.
So
Got
if
it.
people click on the button the day before, they're not getting a tag having never attended.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that tag is awesome, but it's based on the click. It's not based on the result of the click.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, well, that was really helpful. Thanks.
We didn't.
So-
I told you there were multiple ways to do the exact same thing that you were asking.
You didn't lie there. Yep.
Well, yeah, there is, and but it's not all exactly the same, and so at the moment you can't add a tag directly to Obvio on a button press, right? But you can do it externally, and so that's why we were going down the line of Zoom attendance, because we were thinking it was just in Obvio. Now that we're saying doing Kit, you could do it directly. But your question was around changing the name of someone in Obvio, but having that not changed in Kit, and whether that would update again.
So I don't think that's the real question, Grant. That's what she asked, but really what she's wanted to do is put
Is labels.
She wants to group all the people. So really it's labels at the end of the day.
Yeah.
She wants to
Oh.
say, you're in this group, I'm in that group. That's really labels. Even though you asked about changing the first name, it doesn't get back.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's-
think what she wants is if people are looking at the other attendees, that they would see, let's say 30 people who were designated as a leadership type thing.
which is labels,
Okay.
right? So have you used
label.
attendee labels before?
I haven't.
Okay. So in under attendees, there's a thing called labels. What it will do is it'll add a hyphen. It'll be a space, hyphen, space, and then whatever you want for and you filter it based on, I'll just show you quickly here.
Okay.
This is handy for everyone. So attendees labels, and these can be very simple or complex, because you could say, I want to just put Zoom at the end of everyone's name, which would be nuts, but you could do it. And so then that's what it would do. But if what I wanted to do was, I want to say, now here's you can put emojis as well. Not every emoji works in Zoom, surprisingly, but these ones do. So you could say, I want to put a heart, and then we add a rule as to what that is, right? So it could be a tag. It could be a tag, and the tag just happens to include heart.
That's actually way easier than what that's going to work. They got the tags that I need for that. That's perfect.
If they've got a tag, then now, so we add that, and now we've got tag includes heart. They'll have heart added to the end of their name.
Yeah.
So just watch the priority, because if sometimes you want to do multiple tags, and it's totally fine. You just have to be really explicit. What it's going to do is it's going to take the first one that it applies to, right? And so for example, sometimes we get really complex where we're saying, actually, this person is a heart and
also a soul. They're both.
That's right. What am I doing here? And scissors. Hang on.
Grant prefers it when I don't show up. Like there's somebody just heckling him as he does it.
Yeah. How do you add two?
How do
Can
you
you
add
add?
two? Oh, you have to put it in text. Aren't you glad I'm here?
Yeah.
You can't add two emojis. You can use the emoji. What's it called? But you can't add any
Yeah.
emojis that aren't the
Multiple.
emojis that are already there.
Oh, whoops. Hang on. Gee. So now, if it was, we can just say something else. Cut. Hang on. I'm going to do. Now we're getting complex.
Are you going to be really, really complicated? Let's confuse the F out of them. This is a great idea.
Unnecessarily complicated. Yeah.
Terry, how many designations do you have in your event? Please just say one so Grant can stop.
Just make him stop. Make him stop.
One. It is actually just one.
Perfect. Perfect. So you don't have to worry about priorities or anything. Just go in there and add your one label and you're good to go.
All right.
Okay.
For those playing along at home that we're just looking at it, just very quickly, it's just that if this person has heart and cut in their tags, they're going to end up with just heart because that's the first priority. That was the first one that it applied to. So what ends up happening is you make your most complex tags at the start, and so then it goes, okay, yeah, it applies to that. That's what they get, and it keeps going down the priority until it applies. And so
it's not always most complex. It's most important. The things that are most critical to your host.
Yeah, because it's not always that you're doubling up like this either, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you may have a dollar sign that is more important than the heart, based on what the filtering is. And just to complete the thinking, of course, you can put text in there as well. So I did once where I had doctors and I had professors, and so I kind of added their title to the end of their name, and that worked really well. And the other thing is that you can add groups. This is like an advanced level move too. And so I've done it before where I've done a state. I've had a group that had the state that they're from, or state and country, and was able to just put that in, and that appended anything that was in that group field, as in in your attendees, would be appended at the end. And so it's very, very cool. Particularly the use case that you're talking about. You want to be able to see when you look in the participants list, and also participants seeing other participants that are like them, in whatever way. So that's labels. That way you don't need to change their first name or last name.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cool. You're welcome. So Mary, we can jump to your question just to make sure. You might have seen, you were saying about adding the speakers page. Have you worked that out? Went to that features and speakers? Yep.
With that already. So yeah, well, I do have one other question. So I was typing it out, but I'm used to the Tony World for check-in process. They usually have to do something on the back end to let them access the dashboard. So do I have to teach my team how to do something like that?
Are you doing a check-in?
I'll find out by tonight. It'll be a game time decision. I have ambitions too. I mean, if it's not that important, I'll skip it because I mean it's tomorrow. So I would have to.
Is this the event or is this the webinar?
No, this is the event. This would be, if I do check in, it'd be check in right before the event. Here's a half-hour window.
No, don't do it. Don't bother with that.
Okay, perfect.
Just skip it.
Then I'll ask you guys in like a month when I'm ready to do this again with way much more time.
Yeah, and it works really well when you do it the day before or a couple of days before. That's where it works well. For on the event day, it'll just make sense to open your doors early, right? Like have the main stage open early, and people come in that way.
Okay, and they should be able to just click in with their magic link. They end up on the dashboard and they enter the main room.
That's right. You just want to make sure that in the check-in, under the check-in and then tech check, you've got that turned off.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already off. Yep.
Yeah.
So you just
And
keep it
then-
off, otherwise it'll get confused.
Really quick question. I think I know the answer, but if I want my team to be able to turn on the buttons and have control over that, then I just put it into the admin section, right, as a role to be able to adjust the event settings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Well done. All the best.
Thank
Hope
you.
it goes
I'm
great.
excited.
Good. All right. Next question from Jeff. Can you add visibility rules based on ticket type for thank you page and purchase confirmation?
Kinda.
Justin answered me privately in chat and said no. What I'm trying to do is a webinar where people can pick their date and time. But then, of course, on the thank you page in the purchase confirmation email, I have to reference the actual date and time they picked. And currently, it doesn't seem like there's a way to really segment or pull that information easily or at all, unless I'm missing something.
Does the Grant, I don't remember, does the broadcast system allow you to merge groups? I know it allows you to merge first and last names. So Jeff, I'm going to tell you, you should test this because I actually don't know for certain.
Okay.
But when you create a ticket, you can apply a tag or group.
Yes, I've done that.
Based on the purchase of that ticket. I think you may be able to insert a group into an email using a variable, right? So the two of the squiggly parentheses, which I don't know what they're called, and then the exact group name, and then close the squiggly parentheses. That functionality works on the dashboard. I'm not 1,000% positive if it works in the communication system, but merge codes are set up in the communication system because you can merge first name, last name, and email addresses into emails. So I suspect that it may work, and if it doesn't, it probably wouldn't be a huge lift to get it to. And then that way you'll accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, though not exactly how you were intending on accomplishing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was wanting it. So I did just look in the purchase confirmation email. It's not there, but in
It
general
won't be there.
broadcast,
You're going
I
to have
think
to. Do you see the variable drop down though, right?
Yeah.
So the actual variables, the actual groups won't be there. You'll have to type it manually and then test it.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
And it has to be. I would not put spaces or funky characters or lowercase, uppercase. Just make it all lowercase, nice and easy to remember, so you don't have a typo. Because it's not there to select, you have to actually type it manually.
Okay. Yeah, and then on the thank you page, I was hoping to have visibility rules there, kind of like we would on a blog post on the dashboard, because then I can have, for every date and time, I can reference I can have a different blog post for that. And then based on availability rules, it'll say, your registration is confirmed, and then the actual date and time that they've selected.
So, sorry, you were thinking that on the thank you page?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that definitely won't work, at least not in its current implementation. But theoretically, you could not enable the thank you page and redirect them to the dashboard and have a blog post set up based on the group, using a rule based on the group that was applied for the ticket type, and then have all that information there.
Yeah, the dashboard becomes a thank you page, and we're just removing friction at that point. I like that. That's perfect, actually. Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, the key there is I'm just not 100% positive, and I would love for you to let us know either way if the confirmation email or the purchase confirmation email merges those groups.
Right. Okay.
That's the piece that I'm just not sure on.
I think I have done that. I'm just testing it again now. I'm just trying something. See if that will work. anyway, I'll keep looking at that.
And I think this is one of those instances where we need to have a little bit of conversation behind the scenes of how do we actually implement something like this? Like these are great workarounds, but how do we actually make it obvious?
How do we do it properly?
Yep, and do it properly. So there's a thread on Slack for the three of us to actually chat about that.
Yeah. Yeah, saw that. Okay. Ed, on the text boxes, I'm having problems figuring out what the font is. Can you help? Yes. Are you able to share, Ed? Is that still?
Of course. And this comes directly out of the copy thing last night, where Barry said I had too many fonts, and a lot of it was I was using a template. So on the titles up here, I can see the font, right? But when I go down to a text box, and even if I like highlight this and click on the font, it doesn't tell me what font it currently is. It just tells me
yeah, that's probably because you can override the default font using that, but it looks like you haven't. So if you go up to page settings, so just that little page settings, yeah, right there.
Okay.
Styling, and I believe here you can change the default font for the page. So you can select which you want, and then you don't have to go through and update every single thing. Like if you want 90% of your blocks to be one specific font, you don't have to change every single one that way. You just do it here.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. That just saved me about 3 hours. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Let us know if that feature still works.
I'll put a picture in the Facebook group of me crying.
It should work. That's something that I remember testing that. And you can override it, of course, by making by selecting the font on any individual block that you add.
Awesome. Can I say something I just noticed? This is going to sound really crazy. Christina, you might want to look at your where your head is with your logo, because it said Ask Christina, and I don't know if you wanted that. So just something I noticed. I'm sorry. Thank you.
And if you move your head just enough, it actually just says SS Christina, which may be equally offensive. Who knows? Okay, so
I like Ask Christina. I mean, Christina has a pretty good ass, so I'm good with it. But thank you.
Where's Grant to say clean show? Okay, so let's go to Marla next. She has a question about hosting her masterclass. In the dashboard, question is about giving them a direct link to the dashboard using Go High Level Custom Field. Is it best to do this versus sending people to the dashboard with a password? I think it's easier, Marla.
So
right?
I think you've walked me through this before. So I have the custom field and
Yeah.
it's working. So my
Great.
question is on the my first confirmation email that says, hey, you're registered. On that first one, do I do just the dashboard? Like, because I don't think that field would be populated yet. Or do I not put a link on the first one? Just like keep an eye out and your next email will give you the link in.
I would do that, or you can, and Justin can walk you through this, or just tell me if I'm speaking out of my butt. But I believe you can put a delay or you can put a trigger on that email being sent that is ensuring that the custom field is actually populated. And if you do that, then it will always be filled.
Would you recommend that? Or is it best to just What do you
that's
think? Just keep
nice.
the link off the first one.
Yeah, I think that's nice. I think that's nice, right? Because, what you're trying to avoid by doing that is not having people email you back and say, "Hey, I registered, but I didn't get a link." Right? Because people are just used to getting a link in their confirmation emails. Like that's kind of how the world has been trained to a certain extent. So I think it's nice. It's not necessary, but I think it's nice. Hey, Justin, tell me, or remind me, I know we have made changes to the GHL integration. How quickly are attendees after they're tagged and go high level being added into Obvio these days?
Last time I tested it, it was a couple minutes.
Okay.
Oh,
Cool.
okay. So like,
Yeah. So what I would do, Marla, is I would definitely put that wait state in there, because even if you send them the link, if they haven't been added yet into Avio, they'll try to go to the link and it'll say, sorry, you're not registered, which is not a great
Right.
experience. So
Right.
in Go High Level, there is a wait action you can put in your workflow.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know
and
how
one
to
of the
do
things you can say in there for the wait is contact details, go look for whatever that Avio field is and say, is not empty. I would also put a timeout. You'll see a little timeout toggle on there. I would set it to like 15, 20 minutes and have it send you a note if it times out, which means they didn't get into Avio. So they're not just sitting there in limbo and you actually know. And when you do that timeout, it'll set up a wait or an if condition. The if will be if it passes through, send your normal email. They'll have the field populated. If it timed out, it'll send you a note so you can go manually figure out what the heck went on. So
Okay.
wait action and look for that custom field to be filled out.
The custom
Is not-
field
I
is
think it's actually said is not empty. Is actually, I believe, what the condition is.
okay. I'll look at that. And then I'm using the same Avio dashboard. I'm planning to host like a weekly masterclass. Would you just keep the attendees in there? Would you tag them so I know who came to which one? Like they'll have a different email countdown sequence and registration sequence, but do I just have them hang in the
You're going to know who was registered for which one based on Go High Level, right?
I don't need to worry about it. Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
just put it
then I
together
wouldn't
with
then
the
I wouldn't worry about it in Obvio. At some point, what I will say, let's speak positively, Marla. At some
Yes.
point, you are going
Yes.
to you are going to go past the threshold of a free event if you continue to do this. Like if this is a constant lead magnet, essentially. So once you have more than 500 people who have gone through it, you're probably going to want to reset attendees, or you're going to want to do something, possibly even just duplicate the event. But you can just as easily go into Obvio and, well, I mean, you could remove the attendee tag from them in Go High Level, and that would remove them from the event and keep the event clean, right? So after the event, you could do something like that,
Okay.
perhaps.
Okay.
But
That makes
it's just something to be aware of. I mean, clearly you probably won't need to worry about it right away, but you will eventually.
right. And then with plans to do a replay, do you recommend I should have a waiver in there? Or if I add a waiver, does that override the magic link? Like,
It doesn't override the magic link. You can put a waiver in there. If you're
you
planning on
recommend
doing a
waiver?
replay and you're planning on only like doing a replay that includes the active
Just
speaker, that's just
Mhm.
you, you don't need to add a waiver. I don't think you need to add a waiver.
Okay. Okay. And on a sort of related note, because sometimes the parents I'm working with don't want to be on camera and on video. I was in a call this week and someone posted in the chat that you can make a Zoom meeting look like a webinar in the settings by turning off the attendee videos and hiding non-video participants. Do you ever recommend that?
I mean, those are all, for the most part, settings for you personally. they don't affect the other attendees. I mean, half of them affect the other,
That's
one of them
right.
affects the other attendees, but the other one only affects you.
No, no. In host tools, you can not allow them to start their video.
Right, but hiding non-video participants is
Oh,
only for
sure.
you.
Yeah.
So there's two things that she's talking about there. So you can prevent everybody from starting their video, like Grant said.
Okay.
But by default, they're going to see all the names, right? So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I'll just keep it as is and let them decide if they want to be on video or not.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, because one of the things is that we could have built Obvio based around webinar, a Zoom webinar, but we purposely have only done it as meeting because we want to see people's faces.
Right.
Now, and I think there is, I've seen both extremes with events where I've had some people that are like, we've got to maintain privacy and we want to keep all the cameras off. I've also seen the other way where it's like, we want to maintain privacy, which means we want the cameras on. We want to know that when we're talking, that there isn't a room full of kids or people in the room, and we want to know what's going on, right? So I'm not sure that either one is necessarily right, but I think the approach is the middle ground, where the encouragement is to your audience that they would have their camera on, and that works. It works better for the hosts to be able to see the audience. It works better for other participants because we see when other people are engaging. When you see other people engaging, you are more engaged yourself. That works better. But there's always situations where people have whatever reason they need to keep their video off, and of course you'd support that. And so I think that's, like by calling it out, I don't think you need a technical solution to limit everyone, to a webinar. And that'd be very lonely for you as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you so much. That was all my questions. Appreciate it.
Great, no worries. All right, next question is loading. I have tested Blue. I tested broadcast with the group field, and it doesn't flow through at this stage.
I was just putting this in chat, so I'll interrupt real quick. I use ticket name, and I put the date and time in the ticket name. Ticket name works successfully. So just a little workaround. Nice. And it saves you a step because you don't have to think through groups. You just name your ticket, your date, and your time of your webinar or whatever, and you're good to go.
Perfect.
I will take a note for the team, though, to add the variable drop down to that purchase confirmation, because it should be there and it's not.
Much appreciated.
I mean, all the groups really would be great.
Yeah, I think so behind the scenes conversation for 10 seconds. Justin, I think there's two tasks there. One is to make sure that variables for groups actually functions inside of comms. The second task is to get the plugin for the CK editor to actually pull existing groups for the event the same way we do in rules when you select groups. So it shows you the current existing groups that are there. So if we could have those two probably independent tasks.
Independent, yep. I will take that note.
And Aiden built the original pull information of which groups are in existence that exists inside of the rules system. So he might be a good person to put on that. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So before we do more questions, do we want to talk about some production changes?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, because we had a slew of them that actually went out today to fix some stuff that had come up in this meeting and otherwise. This would just kind of do the run through of the list a little bit. So
yeah,
starting with on the tech check page, there is a button that allows you to add additional custom buttons. If you had ever used that feature, you didn't used to be able to actually rearrange the buttons. You can now rearrange the buttons. So Blue, that one's fixed for you.
Cool. Have you talked about the fact that we added a delay? Seeing as you're talking about custom buttons on Tech Check, have you talked about the new feature associated with that same page as well? The delay?
I don't know if we have. Want to talk about that one?
Yeah, probably. So, just high level, Tech Check has always been something that, generally speaking, so this is a little bit of a strategy thing, as well as technology. So in the Tech Check step, the Start Tech Check button always goes to the area that is selected for Tech Check. And then your attendees get to go in and talk to a team member and get checked in. Mary, that's the process that Tony Robbins uses. Now, one of the things that we've been asked over time is there any way to do a more streamlined approach, or what we also call a self check-in? So what some of our clients will do is put a video on this page that is essentially the same script that you would use in a tech check, like, hey, welcome to the event. This is what to expect. This is the platform that we're using, et cetera, et cetera. But they needed a way to get past this page. So if you select custom buttons, right, if you enable custom buttons, what'll happen is you'll be able to, it'll actually start with just a single button. And you can go into it, format it or style it as you normally would. And then you can have the link go to the check-in option, which essentially allows a user to self-check-in. Now, something that we added recently, like within the last couple of weeks, is a delay reveal on that particular button. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, the video that you have on this page is about a minute long, and you want to make sure that people actually watch the video rather than landing on the page and clicking the check me in button and just going straight through without ever watching the video. So what you can do is you can enable the delay reveal and update the time that you are delaying it from, it defaults to 30 seconds, but let's say I had a minute long video and I just wanted them to watch the whole thing. So I may put the delay time at 60 seconds and then just click save. Now what'll happen when we preview is the button won't be present. And we're not going to wait the full 60 seconds, but essentially what happens once the 60 seconds is up, and I'll change this to 5 seconds to show you, is essentially the button reveals after that time frame. So just like it did right there. So this is the only area of the application that currently has that particular delay reveal on the buttons, but it is something that we're actively contemplating putting in a couple of different areas where something similar could be used. The first one that we're contemplating, or that I'm thinking about anyway, is blog posts, because it's not uncommon for us to put a video inside of a blog post, and we may want the button to not be there right away, but rather reveal after a period of time. So anyway, I think it's a cool little feature that exists on a bunch of other platforms, and also is now here. So there you go. I'll let you continue, Justin.
Quick little feature for that has annoyed me that we finally fixed is now if you update start times anywhere throughout the system, it does not update the end time as well. So this is event settings, any agenda items. Used to be if you updated the start, immediately your end date would automatically update whether you wanted it to or not. But that is fixed. The next one, if you create a new event and you're using the blank template, all the features are actually opt-in now, so they're disabled by default. Before it was a little bit of a mix. Some things were enabled, some things weren't. Now across the board, all the check-in pages are disabled, your speaker, your sponsor, Zoom backgrounds, point system, waterfall, all of that is disabled and you opt into it.
Yeah, and for those of you who have used the application for a while, you know when you create a new event, you know, if it's a simple event, you have to go through all those things and turn them all off so people don't go onto those pages by accident. When Justin says they're disabled by default, it's not to say that you can no longer use them. It's just now you just go to the pages that you want to use and turn it on, and you're good to go. Rather than having to go through 10 pages and turn them off, you can just go to the one feature and turn it on.
Exactly. Another feature we put in for Zoom recordings. One of the things we get asked a lot is where the heck is the Zoom recordings button? So now if your Zoom area has a single room in it, the recording button will actually show up when you're looking underneath the room. It's still in the same spot it was before if you go within the room, but we also put it on the Zoom area for when you have just a single room in there. Just like Grant is showing here. You can see the button in the upper right, because we've only got a single room under this test area. So no more having to hunt down within the room and realizing, oh, it's on the right side there.
Speaking of recordings, I have a little public service announcement for those of us using Zoom in Obvio and beyond. If you're using cloud recording and you turn off the AI companion, it also stops the recording of your event.
Ask me how I know.
Right?
That sounds like a hard, painful lesson.
That's a feature.
Yeah. And what's interesting is when you then turn on the cloud recording after that, it also turns the AI companion back on. So it's an interesting thing that Zoom has done, which is the AI companion is directly tied to cloud recordings, and you can't turn one off without the other being turned off. So there is a little button when you go into Zoom to turn off the AI companion. If you expect your recordings to be present, don't use it. Now, in the like, just so we're on the same page, the pop-up does tell you it's going to stop the recording. I just didn't read the pop-up because I was moving a little bit too fast. Now, fortunately, we record in a couple of different areas, but if I was relying on only Zoom cloud recordings, that would have been a serious problem. So just serious, like, I'm joking a little bit, but serious, public service announcement for everybody. Don't turn off the AI companion. Even though you may be like, I don't want AI in my meetings. You want recordings. Don't turn off AI companion. Don't turn off AI companion. Don't turn off AI companion.
Why do you think they did that, Blue?
If I knew that, I would probably have a lot more money. I have no idea, Kat. None. But I do know they're directly tied. I'm hoping at some point in the future they're no longer tied, but they are.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we're wanting to add some options, some Zoom toggles for turning on different features and things, and it's something that we can look at is whether that's something we can do before the meeting.
Yeah, right now, Kat, you can't record locally to your computer inside of an Obvio Zoom meeting. You can on your own Zoom meetings, but inside an Obvio Zoom meeting, you can't. There's a very specific reason for that, that I'm happy to get into, but actually, I'll just tell you really quickly. The reason that is disabled is a lot of clients who use the platform have multiple team members who go into Zoom through Obvio, and they get in as co-hosts. And the record locally to computer is available to all hosts and co-hosts in a meeting, and you can't define that. You can't say host only. So as a result, anybody who goes into an Obvio meeting as the co-host has the if that feature were turned on, has the potential to record the event locally to their system. Now, for some people, that's great because they want one person to record, but for the majority of our clients, they don't want their team to have full access to the recordings locally. That is something that is generally a little more guarded than that. So that's the reason why it's turned off inside of Obvio, but it is something that we are looking to enable at your discretion.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you do believe that when we record outside of Zoom, when we turn off the AI companion, that we are still able to record to the cloud?
You can't record to the cloud in Obvio and turn off the AI companion.
No, but I'm saying outside of Obvio, you believe that Zoom would allow us to turn off the AI companion?
Nope. That's not an Obvio specific feature. That is a Zoom related feature. If you have AI companion enabled, which basically it's enabled everywhere, it's tied to cloud recordings.
So are you suggesting that if we have sensitive information that we're discussing, we should is there a way to actually turn off the AI companion then? To record?
I mean, if you have that sensitive of a call, you probably don't want a recording floating around of it anyway. So I would just turn off AI companion and stop the recording.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, Justin, sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry to have taken you sideways with my PSA. It's just a little fresh in my mind.
It might explain why one of my clients can't find an event recording that they swear is there.
Yeah.
They might have turned off the companion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went how I discovered it is Grant Cardone's team, who we ran like 30, 40 meetings for last week, emailed me and said, "Hey, do you happen to we can't seem to find the recordings after day 1." And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So I go into all of the rooms had them stop, the recordings stop within a couple minutes of each other. And it finally clicked for me, which was they had me turn off the AI companion and I didn't pay very close attention to the dialogue. And now fortunately they recorded everything locally, but they were trying to get something quickly through Zoom. And it's not there in 40 different rooms. So good times.
Good times. All right. For the dashboard, the preview bar now sits at the top as you scroll. And then a couple weeks back, we talked about images not centering and spent a whole heck of a lot of time trying to make the image actually center. So now when you click on it, there's a few new buttons here. So there's one that makes the text align to the right. Click the drop down, makes the image align to the right of the text, and the text goes on the left. Or if we go back to making it in line, the last icon has a center the image itself to all the content. You can make it right, or you can also make it left. So all of those buttons work. I know we did a whole big workaround about 3 weeks ago. That is now fixed for us. And then the last item that we had is not everybody ended up with this fun feature, but every so often you'd add stuff to the sidebar. You'd put it in the right order.
Would we call it a feature?
Yeah. It was, you'd come back in and they weren't quite in the same order that you would design them, and you'd rearrange them. And so now it should keep the right order as you add stuff onto the sidebar. So the section should not rearrange any longer without you doing it yourself.
I used to notice that most commonly, Justin, in the agenda items. Has that been resolved as well?
Yes and no. So 2 of the 6 templates got resolved. The other 4 are back in the developer's hands to try a second time.
Good times. All right.
So back to questions.
Good work. All right. Muddy raised his hand before, but I don't know if he's still around.
Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
So I'm off camera. I'm driving right now, but I raised my hand when you were talking about the self-service check-in, and I just had an anecdotal experience. So ran an event last weekend that had 1,000 people registered, and about 500 people showed up for tech check. Came through during kind of a 3-hour window for tech check. And what I had set up, I had a video on the tech check page. And then it was about a 3-minute video or so. It included a little tour of the dashboard. And then there were 2 buttons below the video. One said, I'm good to go, send me to the dashboard. And the other one said, I'd like a little more assistance. Please connect me with a team member. And so I had the tech check room open and staffed. Of those 500 people, we had 1 person come through and request additional assistance, pop into that room. And it was within 5 minutes of the end of that window. And what was interesting is this person had never been in a Zoom meeting ever. And so they had just installed Zoom and just wanted to make sure that it worked. And so, you know, good type of candidate to have come in and, you know, hold their hand a little, give them some confidence that everything's working. But it was interesting to me that, you know, 499 people came through the self-service option and said they're good to go. So I thought that was,
yeah, that's
we,
awesome.
we may be doing that, in the future.
We did something, we did one for, I'll give you basically similar numbers. We did one this, I think it was last week actually. And we had about, also around 500 people go through Tech Check over a slightly longer window. It was about 7 hours, but the same number of people. And there were 3 or 4 people who went into Tech Check. It were very, very, very few. And I'll tell you the first time we did this, because that feature has actually been around for that particular feature has been around for quite some time. We used to get during, I would say 2021, kind of like height-ish of the pandemic, we would get about 5 to 6% of people when they had both options go talk to somebody. And then over time, it's less and less and less as people get more and more comfortable with Zoom. So that self-check-in option is really nice. And especially if you're short-staffed, which was the case for our the client that we were doing that with. It was a nice option that still gave people the choice.
Well, and real quickly, though, one of the reasons we did this is because I wanted to, knowing that we were inviting 1,000 people to Tech Check, I wanted to space it out, right? And so we send in batches, and their system, they didn't want to do that in their system. In fact, they wanted to send the email the day before or the evening before saying, hey, we're doing Tech Check tomorrow between, 9 and noon. But they wanted to send that out at 6 p.m. the day before. And so this option actually allowed us to put that welcome and orientation video on the dashboard. So for the people, 300 people or so came through the evening before Tech Check was turned off. They saw the dashboard on the dashboard. They saw the video on the dashboard. But then during Tech Check, I disabled it on the dashboard, turned on the Tech Check page, had that 3-hour window, and then after that, turned off Tech Check and turned the video back on the dashboard to the last 200 people that trickled through the event. It was there if they needed it, but it was really more about timing and staffing.
Totally. So what we did, Muddy, just kind of comparing notes, that's a cool way to do it. What we did is I left Tech Check on for that particular event. I just turned off the self check-in or the talk to a team member button. So they didn't get to the dashboard. They still went through the Tech Check steps, still did self check-in, but I just disabled the talk to a team button.
Well, what you must have done is delete that button, because I wanted to do the same thing, but there's no disable option for a button on the Tech Check page. The only option was to delete it.
I may have just deleted it. It's entirely possible that that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, I didn't actually do it. I just asked somebody to do it.
That's great.
Exactly.
Thank you, Muddy.
Feature request, disable button.
Yeah, that made a note of that.
I thought you were going to say, Muddy, that the one person that came through got into the Tech Check and said, "Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong button."
That would have been a better punchline.
There you go. All right.
Should we demo how to set that up? I actually don't know how. Even myself, I actually don't know how I would put the button on the Tech Check page for them to select.
We can. Yeah. We've got a few more questions. We've got a few more questions.
We can come back to it.
Yep. Jeff, what's the quickest way to collect job title upon check-in and have it appear as an attendee label in Zoom?
Oh, this was a headache question when I saw it. Hey, can I ask a follow-up question, Jeff, before we actually give you an answer? Does it have to be the person's knowing your audience, does it have to be the person's specific job title, or can you do it using a category of job titles?
We've tried
Like-
both. What we've found is it causes drama because people just have weird names for stuff. So we've not found a great way to do catch-alls and not cause confusion or frustration. So exact tends to work best. Where they so my goal is that they would type it in a form and I would enable that at check-in, but then I would need it to automatically carry over to attendee labels. And I don't know that there's a bridge to do that.
Not an easy one. So what I was hoping you were going to say was that you could probably that you could do it in buckets, because then you could use a radio button, and inside of attendee labels you can set up labels using form responses as a rule. And that way you can be like, all your administrators say administrator, all your counselors say counselors, or whatever. But if that's not going to work, I mean, first off, I would suggest maybe, is there a possibility that you can rephrase the question? So rather than saying, what's your job title, say something along the lines of, what position best describes your job at your school, right? So we're not making it about their title. We're more just making it about what they do, and then have 5 or 6 different options. So that would be, if I would really heavily try and lead you in that direction if you could figure that out. If you can't, then it's going to involve Zapier. So you're going to have to go from a form, send the form to a webhook. That webhook is going to have to be a Zap that catches it, right? So you, inside of the pro level of, or the one of the paid levels of Zapier, it enables the webhook trigger. So the form feature has a webhook, send webhook option. And then you're going to have to go from the webhook, from the Zap, back to Obvio, and fill the form. But here's the bigger concern that I have. You're not going to be able to see that, because you're going to have people who put like assistant administrator to the principal of the Southeast Division of Massachusetts, Division 4. And like, that becomes a useless. So let's say, because you can technically do it, but it's going to wind up with such a long name, you're not going to be able to see it, right? Like if you're trying to, if part of this is for you, so you know who you're talking to, there's no chance there's no chance you're going to be able to see it. So, because the Zoom names, it just becomes ... in the gallery view at some point, once it gets too long. And I have to think that they're going to put big, long names in their title.
Yeah, better leading question. I can do that. So the use case is, this is for high level coaching clients. School administrators bring staff that need coaching in a particular area. It's not always the same people. And how I coach them really depends on their role. And so it's been hard but we've found that, if it's not the right bucket, but that doesn't apply to me, and then it turns into, the advice pretty much did fit you, but like, it's just not your specific thing, and you're hung up on that and fixated or whatever. But I like having just a which best describes your role question. I think helps bucket that a little bit, and then that makes it easier for us to coach as well based on that.
Yeah, and then you can use labels that you can define, right? So we have the Robbins crew actually does this. We also have Grant Cardone also does this at a high level. They have emojis that they have defined internally that attendees don't even know what they mean, right? So they're, so you could have like, okay, people, I'll use Grant Cardone as an example. People who are our real estate developers have one icon that is the logo, and people who are selling a house have another logo, right? It's also not uncommon for it to be, for our clients anyway, for those icons to be based on revenue. And rather than like, if you're under $100,000 in revenue, you have one icon. If you're over $1 million, you have another. Rather than putting the actual number in Zoom, nobody really loves that. Having an icon that people don't generally know what it means, but you do, is a nice visual representation.
Yeah, great feedback.
Cool. It is, you can see my name now is it's 64 characters. It's 64 characters is the absolute maximum as well. And the only real way to be able to see it all is to pop out the participants, and then drag that window out to make that bigger. But
just because you shared it this week,
comedy, but only down under.
There you go.
I'd like yours to say OSC demonstrator, just to reference another show earlier this week. Inside joke.
That was fun. That was fun. In the pre-show, I opened up Zoom OSC and showed it to him, and demoed it to Andy. Yeah, I think I wondered about just a slight variation is to say where would you fit in the hierarchy almost, and then it's less tied to title and more about where their position within the organization.
Would one of them be janitor? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Not the janitor in the organization.
That'd be on the top. The highest level.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very cool. You're always pushing what we can do. I mean, it would be awesome for us just to have form responses as a value that you can use as a field. But it's super complex because it's like you've got the form, you got to select the form, you got to select the value, it's not quite simple, but
I'd love for it to be possible that when someone submits a form, when you do an attendee export, it has their form responses next to their name and email as well. I don't know how difficult that is, but
we did do that.
Wait,
we did it the other way around.
Grant, haven't you said that you can use a merge tag for a group in a label? So if if their job title is the group, right, but not the actual. I don't know.
I think what happened to Muddy there, that little short circuit you all heard, was him going, right, what Blue said.
Yeah. Like, I just caught up in real time and just brought everyone on for the ride.
Too soon.
Your brain or your microphone?
Thanks, Muddy did just have a birthday recently, so we'll just say it's the fact that you're a year older. You wouldn't have said that a couple weeks ago, but now, dude,
awesome.
Getting rough.
That's
well, happy birthday, Muddy.
Yeah, and you were on the right track. But yes, we were thinking about that in trying to use it, trying to have a form response value would be very cool. Your point, Jeff, was we did it the other way around. Go to the form responses, download all the form responses, and you will get with that all the tags and groups in that export.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've used that. I think we always export our attendees and then upload them to our CRM and stuff after every event. And so I was hoping to have it like
you want all the form responses.
Yeah. If they submitted a form response, it's there. If not, it stays blank. But we only have to do one import.
I think that is a use case.
That's a you problem.
Yeah, well, a little bit, but
it's not the first time I've heard that in my life, Grant. Thank you.
Jeff, I think the potential issue from a usability perspective is for people who have lots of forms. Mm-hmm. And right, like that could become a really, 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 really big file really quickly and become a little unruly from a data management perspective. So to Grant's point, it has actually been added. All of the information that gets included in the attendee export has essentially been added to the form export, like to the form responses. So rather than exporting from attendees, just export from form responses and you'll have essentially the same result.
Sounds good. But I would not have the attendees that hadn't completed a form there. Like, it's not going to have the attendee and then an empty space. So
That is correct. That is the
okay,
downside
gotcha.
for sure.
All right.
But if it's on the waiver step, you'll have 100% completion.
That's true.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Mary said, how do I create a green room for speakers so they can log on but not be seen by the participants? Yeah. There's a few variations of this. It's very easy to create the room. What's a little bit more difficult is what they're going to see when they're there, because you probably want them to be able to see the show that's happening. And so that takes some production, because you're needing to have some sort of computer that is in the main meeting, the Zoom meeting in the main stage, and then have that coming out of that and sending it into a green room so that they can still see what's going on, right? So it is.
Yeah, Mary, what Grant's trying to say is you need a studio to do that. Like there's hardware involved, and not an insignificant amount of hardware to make that happen.
Yeah, Muddy actually gave a pretty good workaround. He said I could stream it to YouTube and then they could be in the other room and watch it on YouTube live.
That would work. I would question why they need to be in Zoom at that point, but yes, 100%.
That's true. Because then I'd have to go get them still, right? Because I can't message them.
Yeah, a couple of things with that. One is that there'll probably be 30 seconds delayed, about 20 to 30 seconds delayed, and that might be an issue. Welcome our guest in 30 seconds. So that could be a bit of a problem. The other thing is that as you see in this meeting, I'm live streaming now. You can, everyone as a participant can go to see that little YouTube link, and they can link off to YouTube, right? They will get that link if you do it that way. And that then means that people could send that link to any of their friends, and now they're all watching it on YouTube. So that's not ideal either, right? So, there are ways. Now, look, I use green rooms, on almost all the events I do, right? And I create speaker stages and all sorts, and it's very, very powerful. It's just that it takes hardware and a couple of computers to make it happen. And sometimes you want to have control over how loud it is in there as well, so that they can talk over the program that's happening in there. So there's a few different things. Something that we have done before on smaller events where we don't have a green room is the use of a breakout room to have a team member meet with a speaker in the meeting, right? And so we see that the speaker has arrived in the main meeting, main stage. We then create a breakout room where you manually assign people. You're not automatically assigning everyone. You're creating a breakout room, manually assign. You grab a team member and the speaker and put them in that breakout room. They check that they're all okay. They do a screen share or whatever if they need any of that sort of tech check. And then we know that they're all okay. Then we go back into the main meeting, and we're much more confident now that when we say, and now here's Bob, it's gonna work, right? We can hear him okay. He can hear us, and the screen share works. So that's a very, kind of cheap way, an easy way of doing that type of thing. Blue, did you see now that in Zoom they added a feature where you can move someone from the waiting room directly into a breakout room?
I did see that.
It's kind of cool, except it means that you got to have your waiting room on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're so I mean, you're totally asking the right question. That's what we do on big shows, and so if you want to do that, then there's some extra hardware and bits and pieces to make it all work.
Okay, that's helpful. Is the waiting room function in the host settings as well?
To be able to turn on the waiting room?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you can totally turn on the waiting room, the Zoom waiting room. We tend to not use it for our attendees, because what we tend to use more is the offline page of the Obvio offline page for the Zoom area. So when the Zoom area is not open, it'll go to an offline page that you can totally customize, and we like that. Feel like it's a better experience than a standard Zoom waiting room. Right. And so, but of course you can turn it on and off. You could use it at different times. Once your event had kicked off, you could put the waiting room on perhaps. So there's nothing stopping you using the Zoom waiting room is what I'm saying. It just means that you need to be on top of it, because it means that if an attendee drops out and comes back, they're going to go in the waiting room. Someone has to be on top of letting them in.
Okay. So the function I want to do is more at the end of the event, where I want to meet with my team. But if there's any people lingering, like that, we do this in events, and then we stick them in the waiting room, and then we can talk.
Easy. Yep.
So turn it on and then throw them in there.
Yeah, we do that. We do that too. We've done that. We've also we just open a breakout room and then pull our team in there, and then people can leave as they need to leave. Right.
Okay. Right? I like that. That's easier.
And sometimes, and so just to remember that too, something that's nice about that is that there's often no issue of it being recorded. Right. So sometimes your main meeting, you've still got your recording going, maybe. Right. And so you don't have to worry about that. You go into a breakout room and it's not going to be recorded, and it's all good. So, and it depends how your event is ending. And if people are, hanging out, listening to music or whatever, and they just want to leave on their own accord, they totally can. So yeah, there's a few different strategies there, but those functions are there. And the waiting room doesn't have to be turned on in order to be able to put someone in the waiting room. Right.
Oh, perfect.
And so,
I can just do that at the end of the night anyway.
You can just push people into the waiting room. Yeah. We often do it when you think that someone's walked away from their computer, and it's still there. But yeah.
But you want to be able to talk just in case.
That's right.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I think that was everything.
Couple things for you, Mary. If you are having a team meeting, I would turn the waiting room on just to make sure that somebody doesn't sneak in.
That's right.
Yeah. Has that happened?
I mean, you can turn the area off at that point too, but yes.
Yeah, if you forget to turn the area off and someone sneaks on through, yeah.
Which one's the which button was the one where we can get in but they can't get in? This button or this button? Hold on, let me look at it. What's it called?
So the room button. Yeah, Grant's gonna show you.
Oh, you're gonna show me, okay.
So this is the meeting we're in right now, right? We've got 20 people in here. So when this is open, people click the button on the dashboard, it takes them straight in. When that's toggled off, it'll take people to the offline page. Yeah.
Design's been driven by the login page.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And then your offline text here is how you customize all of that.
Okay.
So two things. One is that obviously any team member that has access to this page that hits join will come through regardless of whether it's open or not. Right. So that's one way of getting team members in, and they'll be co-host. They'll have automatic
the admin, the roles function.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
That's right. In this with the room, you can also give this link to a speaker as an example. That link will take them directly. It'll just take them to a page to put in first name, last name, and email, and it'll put them straight into that Zoom meeting. Also, regardless of whether the area is on or off. So it really is a speaker link in a way, because it means, particularly if a speaker's starting the day or the first session or whatever, you can get them in, settled, have a chat with them before you open the area.
So if the open room button is off, they can't get in?
Well, yes, but that you really open room is really about getting Zoom ready and being able to start the meeting. It's not, that is about turning on and off the room, not a gate, or not a open close type situation. It's sort of whether the room is online or if it's totally offline and not working. Does that kind of make sense? Because when you look at it here, you're like, open the room and it'll have a start button. You click start and now you're on. You don't use open and close to prevent people from coming in and out. You use that to start and stop the Zoom meeting.
I thought if they had the registration, the speaker link,
Yep.
so we still have to turn it on for them to get in.
You
I
have
thought
to
they
have,
can't get in.
okay,
That's
yeah.
correct.
So that is correct. But what
Okay.
we're talking about is the room being online actually started, right?
Okay. Then they can just
No
go
one
in.
can. Yeah, it needs to be started. So
Okay.
if it was closed, if the meeting wasn't open at all, and they went to the registration link, it would just say room is offline.
Okay.
They'll just get a little tiny little notification that just says the room is offline as a speaker.
Okay. And
Mhm.
can they? Okay, yeah. So they can't. And the only people who could turn on that open area is people who have that role to have
Correct.
that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
you've got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
And then second point, I wanted to take us back to your green room question. That same registration link that Grant just showed for the room, you could give that to the speakers and tell them to put in a bogus name in there, and that's how they'll show up in Zoom. So they could come into Zoom, watch it as a normal attendee, but just not have their actual real first and last name. Now, granted, when it is time for them to show up on stage to speak, they need to leave the room, come back in through the link, and put their real name in there,
Okay.
and then they can turn their camera on and whatnot. It's a cheap
Okay.
way to get around not having a green room tech wise.
They can put
Yeah.
somebody famous
So
and
you're
be
like-
like, wow, Mary's some celebrity participants.
Look,
Quick
just to
note,
let you know now, to reveal right now, Red Schmelnick is actually Blue Melnick, and we'll rename now. No one knew. No one knew. There he is. He's coming onto the stage now.
actually, Justin, I don't know if this is the intent or not, but the first time you come in through the speaker link, and it creates that record for you. If you come back in, use the same email address, but a different name. My experience last weekend was it was still reverting to the original name.
Yep,
So
I think that is the
Schmelnick,
experience.
gig is up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So-
by design. That's not
Yep.
just an experience. That's by design.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all three
But yeah.
fields, first name, last
And
name,
correct.
email.
Yeah.
Put in bogus stuff if they want to just watch the event
Well,
and be
they'll,
anonymous.
right. Because as long as they use a different email address, they can
Yep.
deal with their real. Gotcha.
Exactly.
I missed that part.
So Grant, next question.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amelia, I'm still having an issue with Marketplace and the confirmation of sale. Okay.
So I'll share my screen. I mentioned this to Blue and then never came back to show anything. So when I have this, I've made all my tickets. They choose a ticket. They put their name in, right? And they put their email in. And then they go, that's the first thing that happens. Is it grays out the name and the last name isn't there. And then I go to confirm purchase and nothing happens.
Hey, would you do me a favor? Would you put a +22 at the end of me? Like in your email? Try now. Well, put a last name in there. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
So
Okay,
funny
so
enough,
what's
I
happening
was
there?
actually going to file a bug for this exact same thing later today. and it's because you have an attendee already with that email address in your system.
Yeah. So let's be Justin, be careful with that. That's actually functioning by design. What we need to do, we
it's
need
totally
to
by
add it.
design.
Yeah, we need to add a notification as to why it's happening.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to have them do, because it is by design.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
So
obvious.
basically, Amelia, logic there is the same person shouldn't be able to purchase multiple tickets with using the same email address.
Got it. Okay.
And I think we just need to add what Justin and I were talking about. We need to add something that basically says the email address you're using cannot be used as it already has a ticket to the event, or something along those lines. Probably a customizable message too.
Yep.
Awesome. That works.
While we're on Marketplace, Jeff, did you have something you want to show as well?
Yeah, a quick bug I wanted to show you. I think we looked at it a few weeks ago, but I just wanted to, since you've got kind of the whole team here, pull it up real quick. It's a formatting thing in Safari. So this should not be blank space. And it doesn't always show up like this, but I would say about 80% of the time, this is what it looks like. Let me try to refresh it here, full screen, and see if it shows properly. Nope. So yeah, it's just a weird.
Can you go to the
reason.
editor just for a moment?
Yeah. Let me pull that down over here. If we go over here, it should show properly in Chrome. Yeah.
What do you think's causing that? Not you, Jeff. I'm trying to think of what's on.
I was aware that wasn't being volleyed towards me.
Yeah.
Because resizing it doesn't seem to solve the problem, you know, like, and it doesn't, and it's not consistent. Like it happens the majority of the time, but not all the time. I actually pulled this up to show you earlier after I submitted the question, and it displayed perfectly. And I was like, well, shoot, I can't show them now. But then I refreshed it, and then it caused the bug again.
Can you go back to it one more time? There's all sorts of things that are off on this, aren't there? Looks like
here from, yeah, right at the top.
Yeah, here from is off. Like, go back to the editor.
Oh, yeah.
Try moving here from up.
Spacing is different here.
Yeah, but go down a little bit. Just that here from, try moving it up and then just move it back down. Actually, just try moving it up to start and then go back to the actual and refresh that page. I want to see if that moved it.
Ah, so it appeared.
That's
So
the
go
thing
back.
that's gotten lost. Yeah.
Yeah. Try change that here from to be full width. You actually have to resize it. Just resize it to be the full width.
Oh, sorry. Let's see here.
And just confirm that's fine. Okay.
Okay.
It'll just adjust the size to fit. All right, now go back and let's try. Well, yeah, sure.
I was trying to get it actually full width here, but there we go.
Okay. So I'm not suggesting that that's how it should be. There definitely is a spacing issue there, but I have a sneaking suspicion it has to do with the fact that here from the order may have been out of place for some reason.
Then you see these big gaps here.
Yeah, that's its own problem that is not going to get resolved. So a little inside
Today.
baseball. We are
Today.
working. Yeah.
Not going to get resolved.
Well,
You just left
no,
you left that sentence hanging.
We're basically in the midst of a major rewrite of the page builder.
Okay.
Because of some of these text spacing issues that continue to pop up. And we're not close to to releasing it. But we have I have basically asked the developers to limit the amount of things that we fix as it relates to the page builder and some of those bugs, because it's just going to get overwritten when we release the new page builder, which we're already well on our way towards. Like I'm already actively testing it. So
don't fix everything on the car you're sending to the junkyard. In other words,
basically,
it's a waste of time.
Not exactly going to say it like that, but yeah, kind of.
Don't put new tires on it. It's going to get you from A to B for the next few weeks or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more going to a museum where it'll just sit. It'll still look good, but it won't drive anywhere anymore. So we're not spending any time on the
kind of like my BMW, right? Kind of like our X5 that got drove into a building.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like a whole nother story for a whole nother show.
It is a story.
I believe you can go back to the first copy clinic and watch the first couple of moments, first 15 minutes of the first copy clinic. And I may have shared the story as well as some pictures.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry for your loss. I hope the marketplace doesn't have the same demise.
Well, I mean, no, actually, we kind of hope it does, because the car was written off and now I'm getting a new car. So you kind of actually hope Marketplace has the exact same demise.
Yeah. We should write it off.
Well, give me 20 minutes. I'm going to go break some stuff for you and see if I can help. You're welcome.
Trust me. I can break tons of stuff. All right. Sorry. Moving on.
Stephanie has a question for us. Stephanie may not be here anymore. We've built our event page, and there is a pop-up that comes up when previewing the site, and when viewing it externally, it just appears to be a sample of the text on the event page. Is there somewhere we can turn that off? Yeah. We can't seem to find it. Yeah. So that, if Stephanie, you managed to get to this recording, and go all the way to this part, what you have on blog posts is the option of a welcome message, and that will turn the blog post into a pop-up. It's called a welcome pop-up. I'll just show you here. So it's a little toggle. It's very easy when you know what you're looking for. So in the blog post is welcome pop-up, and so it turns the blog post into a welcome pop-up. And now it will show once for every device that people log into, and so we'll show the first time, and that's all. Once they've just dismissed it, then that's it. That's kind of like that initial welcome. You really want to make sure they know this, and it'll pop up and be front and center for everyone. So, but you can totally turn it off. Yeah, that's how you find it. All right, and then
I have a quick question about that feature. I noticed on my last two events using the cards template that the welcome pop-up and the post that was a pop-up only had a video in it. It had a welcome message from the host. So it had a title, no text, but just a video. And the experience was it popped up for about a half a second and went away. So it was really more jarring than anything. I'm curious if that's a known issue. If not, I'll just submit it as a potential bug. And
Feels like it's a known issue now, Muddy. Now it's a
Yeah.
known issue. Hey,
It's now known.
would
Recently
you
known.
mind would you mind sending us a link to the event that's doing that when you're in front of a
Yeah,
computer?
and I'll send you a little screen recording of it happening too, logging in as a new user. So you can see
Yeah,
what's happening.
because if we can recreate it, then the team should be able to track that down.
Okay, good deal. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, it could be something to do with the video. I think that is triggering it somehow, in the way the video is displaying. But yeah, I mean, we want it to work for videos. It does on other templates. So, yep, cool. Last question, Jeff. Production question: when might you use projection wall over green screen for virtual events? What do you got going?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned this to Blue. We're moving into a new studio space, kind of our dream studio space, which is exciting. I've been using
Nice.
green screen for a while, and I've actually been working on implementing Ultimats and stuff. But of course, the challenge is you add additional cameras for multi-day events to make the shots interesting. And now you've got Unreal Engine, and it's just really complicated, right? Because you're compositing background. So I know, like for example, Sage started. You guys started in a warehouse with Crescent with projection back wall, you know. And my thought was, okay, like, am I silly to do green screen as versatile as it is? Like, should I just run 10 to 12,000 lumens on rear projection screen and call that good, and then not have to worry about Unreal and everything else? Yeah, just wanted to, while you were both here, run that by you.
No, because I wouldn't call it good.
Sure.
Those first few events that we did like that, the amount that we had to do from a lighting perspective to not
lighting's
blow
tricky.
out the rear screen, and those at one point became like double stacked 25K projectors. And we were
That's what I
still
was afraid
blowing
of.
out the wall. Yeah. Or blowing out the, like, if you look at some of those original, like the footage
It's
from
just
them.
washed out.
Yeah. The lighting is just too harsh. You have to get too far away from it. The lighting has to get too far up. You need to make sure that it's really directional. You can't, with that, the host can't stand too close to the screen, because if your light is right, then it will go, they won't be lit.
They walk into the
I-
dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say no, because you need way more space than you likely have, and way more ceiling height than you likely have. And if you're spending that much money on projectors, just get an LED wall.
Right. Okay. That's kind of what that was my hypothesis of what you guys might say, but I just wanted to ask the question for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I think. I think you need to go. You want to have it really far back because of the lighting, and once that's so far back, then now it's totally out of focus, and it doesn't really give you anything anyway. So then it doesn't really gain much. The thing I'd be looking at, if you can't fully go to the LED wall, would be like a bunch of the biggest TVs you can get. You know, like you get like the 98-inch screens from Costco now for $1,500 or something. And put a few of those around. Well, now you can control a little bit more what's there, and it becomes a set that now you're walking over to one screen, it's got gallery or something, and you've got something else, you know, going on another one. I think that could work really well. And then light the back of that behind the screens really nicely. I think that'll look awesome. And now, and I think you being more interactive in the space that you're in is more dynamic as well, right? That's my preference. Is that
Grant, you're
walk
talking
over
about
to
doing
a
like
screen.
physical set stuff, though,
Yeah.
right? Like not like building a wall of TVs, because that's just its own problem.
Yeah. I mean, have a few TVs as part of the set, and now
then have
you're
them
interacting
framed and
exactly.
Proper, like, yeah, you're talking about hard set.
Yeah, we built a set like that actually for well, there were most of the components were there. We put it together and lit it very specifically for a shoot several years ago, a studio we were using in Florida, and it looked phenomenal. It was like a whole, almost like looked like a talk show set, you know, and then it had different screens, and the screens could reference. We had 3 speakers on stage, so they each had a screen,
So
and
good.
things could change. It was really cool looking. But yeah, the challenge too a little bit was reflections, like dealing with a lot of light reflections.
Yeah.
So
These
at
are
one point we
awesome.
looked at. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
they
gonna say
are.
that. We looked at getting Samsung frames, which are stupid expensive, but the matte finish saves you so many hours. Because every time you
Yeah.
move a light, you're just recalculating like crazy to figure out how do I get this to not bounce off that screen. And then,
Yeah.
of course, if you got speakers with glasses, what works for the TV may not work for the speaker in their glasses. So it just gets a little wild.
Do you know, I honestly, and you've heard me say this before, but like, I think how people feel in the space is so important. And the thing that you just said about that studio in Florida is that it looked amazing. So
It
how
did.
do you feel when you walk into that space? That's actually one of my biggest gripes with green screens. It's
Yeah.
not a nice environment. It's this fluorescent green environment that you need to constantly be telling yourself this is worth it. This is really good online because it shows up great online, but it's a terrible environment to be in. It's
Yeah.
not and so particularly when you're trying to connect on significant deep, topics, you want as pleasant, as comfortable a space as you possibly can, because if you just walk into that space and you feel comfortable, then the way that you communicate with people through that lens will be so much easier, and they will feel it. They'll feel it, and they'll also see it, and they're like, I would love to be on that set. It's got a big comfy couch there, and then there's a screen there, and there's
Yeah.
whatever it is that the set looks like. I think there's something to be said about that, and a little bit of reflection here or there, probably you can get away with,
Get away with it a little bit. Yeah,
because
one
it's
thing
just
we
a
do
real
with
environment.
we have like a teleprompter that we always have up, and it's the confidence monitor of what's
Mhm.
live with the speaker. And one of the reasons we do that is because that looks amazing. And when you see that, and I do this myself when I speak, I look at that
Yeah.
thing, oh, it's fantastic. Look at the set, it looks great. If I turn
Don't look
180
around.
degrees, I go, there's a whole big green stinking wall. Like I don't see
Yeah.
anything. And
Right.
it's like, are we doing the weather? But if you're looking at that
Yeah.
confidence monitor, you're like, oh, this looks amazing. And so, but yeah, bringing
Right.
people into the space, you introduce them to that.
Totally. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
really good point, Grant. I like that.
Hey, are you going to NAB?
No, I won't be at NAB.
Dude,
But
you're missing out.
I should at some point.
You should.
Hey, Jeff, I just
Oh,
dropped a
Blue,
link
thanks
in
for
the
the
chat.
link.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually didn't know about that. I was just kind of Googling to see if there were any other TVs that have matte finishes.
Hisense has one as well that popped up in my feed because, Facebook's stalking me as I research these things. But yeah, this is another good option. It's like
And
when you're
Jeff,
using it for set, you don't need a
75
Samsung expensive screen. Sorry, go ahead, Muddy.
you referenced the Office Hour 5-year special, and Andy Carluccio in his background had a couple of big TVs that were mimicking Windows, right? They actually had curtains over them and had a
Really
screen
cool.
behind him, and that was a hard set, but a combination of kind of digital windows in that hard set. And I think the DataJet on YouTube has had a set like that before too, where those really big screens can allow you to kind of create as if it were an open air windows.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking, as you were saying that, Muddy, I was just thinking about Potato Jet, and
Yeah.
that he has a video of
Yeah.
him
Of a-
setting up that set, and it's
In
awesome.
a basement? Is it in a
It's
seen
basement?
this.
basically, yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of it is epic.
Mm-hmm.
Like how he did it, the fact that the way the TVs align, it looks like it's a television, like a window frame. Like it's a really cool video.
See if I can
Yeah, I
find it and
think
drop it in chat if I can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
look,
looking for
I
the
found
one.
Yeah,
I
I got it
found
here.
Andy's. This is Andy's.
That's
Right.
fantastic.
So that's really cool, right? That's 3 TVs.
Yeah.
And it actually happens to be a live feed from a camera he has on his house or his apartment where in San Francisco. And so it gets dark and it, like it really is, but it doesn't look like that at all. And of course, what's amazing about that is that, the it's real. So there's his hairline and everything is all accurate. Nothing's, flickering or anything because it is real. And yeah, I've seen people, I mean, it's the same as the cruise ships, the internal rooms where they're starting to do these virtual windows on cruise ships. It can kind of work. Like if it looks,
especially
it
through
looks
the
like
camera. To lie to the naked
Yeah.
eye is much harder than to lie to a camera.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. But those 3 screens, I think they're only 55s as well. That's cheap.
Oh yeah, very cheap.
Yeah. And it's a really neat effect.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. So you guys would lean in this direction versus green screen.
Green screen or projector. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had this
100%.
conversation though.
What's that, Blue?
Because
I said I hate green screen. I've just
Yeah, I do too. But I also think even if you can make it look amazing, I still think that you're putting a cognitive load on your audience that's unnecessary. So when things are changing behind you or things like that, it's like, whoa, what just happened to the background, or and always with this stuff, it's how people feel, not what they think.
Yeah.
You and I would look at it and go, oh, it's green screen, and okay, and that this must be what he's doing. The general attendee is not thinking that at all, but they will likely, in the extreme case, have headaches and be just a little bit thrown off by it and not be calm and centered and settled because there's funky things going on.
Yeah, we don't usually
think,
switch to screen during the event.
Right.
In fact, I would say Sage, you guys probably switch it more than we do with, like the LED wall, if you're comparing that to the green screen. We have different scenes from Charleston or whatever. We usually pick one and kind of stick with it. Unless there's a segment where we really want the segment to feel different than the rest of the event, then we've done that. But
I'm the same way. I actually don't. I don't think that that back rear screen should change that much. When we do change screens, it's not by my choice. I'll tell you that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Unless there's like a very to Grant's point, or to your point, unless there's a very specific reason for it. Like when we do cocktails and Q&A at the end of day 2. All right, put up a bar as the rear set. I get that. But the rest of the time, like going from one set to the other, or some of our clients will actually change rear screen stuff, like the entire rear screen halfway through a session.
Yeah, it's just jarring.
Yeah. I was just thinking of that word.
You have to find a way to do it, right? Like you have to do it on a cutaway. There's a whole
or
and even then it's like,
or you do pictures. See, or you do picture in picture, right? And picture in picture doesn't look too bad when you do that. Like it just a little picture in picture appears. But my argument for that then is that might as well be a TV. At that point, it might as well be a 75-inch TV on a physical set that looks great, Yep. So
mount on some truss, get some truss warmers or something like that, and now you've got some actual practical lights in the background.
Have some depth. Have some depth to that, and
even
make
the blue
it a
light
really
behind
nice
you, Grant.
environment.
Yeah.
It's just simple stuff. Yeah,
adds a lot. Cool.
Anyway.
All right, I'll research some TVs because I have I used to run a slider during an event just for a nice movement shot on a secondary cam. And once we switched to green screens, all that movement stuff started to go away. And I started to do it digitally in OBS and stuff because you're compositing otherwise for every little shot.
Yeah. That's a nice thing to do too, right, Jeff? Like just having an auto or a slider that just bounces back and forth.
Yeah.
Like
point A and point B the whole time.
Yeah, it's I love that as a cutaway. We don't have one here, but we've done We've actually done from behind, kind of looking up, just back back
Yeah.
and forth, nice and slow, like enough that they're.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think they're really cool shots.
Yeah, one of
Well,
those you
it
don't want to
create-
overdo, but it adds a lot if you use it tastefully.
Well, I think that it creates depth in your set as well, right? Because so people get more of a sense of where you are because they're getting, you know, a slightly different angle, and so and as it moves, they're getting that the depth of that is shown. But the reverse shot is great too, particularly if you've got a heap of gallery views, and you know, the fact that people can see that you can see that sort of stuff is really powerful too. You know, so. Yeah, that's cool.
All right.
Congrats
Thanks for the
on
chat,
new
guys. Lots
studio.
of great ideas here.
Yeah. I'm surprised that we managed to keep so many people as we were geeking out about production. You're like, are they going to
They
say
just
something
like the
interesting?
sound of our fancy microphones.
That's right. Yep. All right. Let me double check. I think that was the last question. It was the last question. Is there anyone else with some desperate need for a question?
There was sounded like Justin had a question earlier about how to set up custom buttons.
How to set up. What was
It was the how to do a tech check without having them come in the room.
Oh,
we can always
right.
cover that at a different time.
Yeah, I reckon we hit that up next week.
Sounds
Very
like a
good.
plan.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week, 5 o'clock Eastern, and catch us at help@obv.io in the meantime. Awesome. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.